Level 5 Diploma in Education and Training. Unit E, Developing, Using and Organizing Resources in a Specialist Area. Resources are an essential tool in bringing your lessons to life. They are used to stimulate learning and support those who may have particular learning preferences, such as kinesthetic learners. There are all sorts of different resources which you can use in your teaching. Certain subjects require specialist resources in order to be taught. A few examples are listed below. Example: mechanic. Rochelle is doing an apprenticeship at a local garage. She has to carry out practical learning so that she will be able to do her job properly once she is qualified. Therefore, useful specialist resources include car parts, safety equipment, and cars which can be worked on. Example: chef. Corey is training to be a chef at a restaurant in his village. He needs a variety of specialist resources in order to learn, including kitchenware, cooking appliances, and personal equipment. Example: English literature. Lucas has just started a course in English literature. He gets hold of a range of materials to assist him in his studies, including all of the course books and some guides on literary themes and theory. He knows that he will need these in order to learn effectively on the course. Adapting your resources to meet the needs of learners is a huge part of the teacher/trainer role in helping your learners to succeed. For mixed ability groups, adapting resources is crucial in ensuring that all learners are receiving an equal level of support in their learning. Ewan is an SEN learner who struggles to understand things as quickly as some of the other children in his class. To meet his individual needs, he works through his lessons with a classroom assistant, and the teacher uses differentiation to ensure that the work he does is at his level. For a spelling lesson, Ewan uses colorful letters to make the words, rather than a pen and paper. This means he gets to join in and learn using resources that will help him to absorb information. Principles of resource design: intellectual role and relevance to course learning outcomes. Accessibility for those with disabilities. Clarity of communication visually and in text. Engaging your particular students. Value for money. Ease of use. Depending on your specialism, there are a range of sources you might use to inform your resource design. The most valuable of these sources are trusted websites, books and organizations which can be relied upon to provide accurate information. For example, BBC sources, for example Bitesize. Twinkle.com. Subject-specific journals and magazines, for example Nursery World, Hairstyles Only. You should also look for advice, information and resources provided by the awarding body which can be used to inform your own resource design. When getting inspiration from outside sources for resource design, it is important to evaluate the source and understand what you like about it and what doesn't work so well. For example, the link provided is for a website covering GCSE history for both teachers and students, created by teacher and history expert Scott Alsop. He provides revision material as well as a podcast on different topics which can be downloaded free of charge. Benefits: as an experienced practitioner, Alsop is a reliable source of information and his resources are tried and tested as useful revision sources. Using his ideas can be beneficial in creating original resources for use in your own classroom. Limitations: having time to create a podcast for your learners could be quite challenging, especially if you have had no experience in recording. It can also be limiting for learners who aren't able to access phones/MP3 players, etc. In addition to outside sources, your own understanding and research into the subject being taught should inform your resource design. If you have been teaching this topic for a while, you will probably have a good idea as to what resources work well and which don't. If you are new to teaching in this area, you should be fresh with ideas. Look at the resources of other teachers/trainers and let yourself be inspired by the kind of materials they have come up with. Talk to them and find out what was successful. Do further research in your specialism and carry out CPD activities. Your own development as a teacher will help you to improve your resource development skills. Think outside of the box. How can you be more creative in your approach to resource design? Curriculum design can be seen through two main lenses: curriculum as a product model and curriculum as a process model. Product models focus on harder outcomes in the learning process, i.e., tangible achievements that can be attained, such as grades or awards. The teaching is teacher-centered. Process models, therefore, focus on softer outcomes such as learner development. The teaching is learner-centered. There are a variety of different theorists who talk about these types of curriculum design. Resources designed to meet a product model curriculum tend to lean towards helping a learner achieve a certain outcome. There is a general focus on end examination and revision. Examples of product-based resources include flashcards, closed tests, revision sheet. Process model resources, in comparison, focus largely on experimentation and the cultivation of new ideas, rather than rote learning. These resources encourage your learners to think for themselves and learn through exploration. Examples of process-based resources and activities include computer-based group research project, free-form crafting activity, item to stimulate discussion topic. Hidden curriculum is a term used to describe things that are considered a side effect of education. This usually refers to the transmission of societal norms and values, amongst other things, during teaching and learning exercises. You can often teach unintended lessons through your use of resources. For example, teaching learners about equality and diversity through the use of resources showing different genders, ethnicities, ages, etc. Demonstrating good writing skills in resources, i.e., high standard of grammar, punctuation, spelling, etc. It is important to think about how to classify your resources before storing them. In other words, how will you group them? Depending on what you teach and the environment in which you teach, you might have differing ways of classifying information. Think about what is the most useful and accessible way for you. For example, you might classify by subject, level, place in curriculum, type. Quite often resources are created with several years' worth of use in mind. Therefore, it is important to think about how we store our resources to ensure they can be kept and utilized for as long as possible. For physical resources, it is a good idea to store them in a safe and accessible location within the learning environment, so that you and your learners can get hold of them easily when required. For electronic resources, you should make sure that they are organized in a conspicuous and logical way. Backing up electronic resources is beneficial to prevent loss through file corruption, etc. Sharing resources is great, as it means that as a workforce, you are able to deliver a higher standard of teaching across the board. Even if you know the people you are sharing resources with, you should still take precautions to ensure that the resources are safe and protected from copy theft. If sharing physical items, keep a master copy in case of loss or damage. When sharing digital documents, try to only use PDF, portable document format, files, as these are far less easily altered. If uploading resources, make sure to use trusted and secured sites, and put your name/your organization on everything. When designing and creating resources, ensure that you are following legal requirements. For example, you should check that your resources meet standards set out in each of the following parliamentary acts: Copyright, Designs and Patents Act 1988, Equality Act 2010, Health and Safety at Work etc. Act 1974. Intellectual property rights are there to help people to protect the items they create. There are different types of intellectual property protection in place to prevent people from stealing or copying a range of things, including product/brand names, inventions, product design, written items, and so on. You should make sure to protect any resources you make. If someone tries to steal or misuse something you have created that has been protected correctly, it is far easier for you to then take action against them, including legal repercussions. Sometimes, in cases like this, you may need to seek help from an intellectual property professional or the IPO, Intellectual Property Office. Of course, you must also be careful not to steal from others. Every time you use a resource that wasn't created by you, ensure that the right credit is given and that you are following legal requirements. The same goes for writing essays. Imagine if you had spent a lot of time, money and effort writing a book, only to have people take your ideas without crediting you for it. You would most likely feel cheated, upset and angry. This is why referencing is so important. Make sure that all of the sources that you use in your work are properly referenced. Failing to reference properly is stealing. When you evaluate resources, you should be looking to judge their value. Look at your strengths and weaknesses in designing resources to assist in teaching and learning. It is important to know what you do well, so you can continue doing it, and what you do less well in, so you can make changes to the way you work. Think about how you will use your evaluation to improve your practice as a whole. This will ensure that you can become a better practitioner and your learners will be more engaged with your teaching. If you would like to cite this presentation in your work, please use the citation template below.